First thing you need to know about the DLC missions is that there is a little difference how the S rank is determined in DLC missions in comparison to the main campaign. While in the main campaign the ranking of individual criteria determine the overall rank, the ranks of the criteria have no meaning here. Instead, you get points for each criteria, and the overall amount of points determines the overall rank. This means that, for example, it is possible to exceed the requirements of the enemies routed and points picked up by far, and still get the S rank, although the remaining 3 criteria all have C ranks. Second, what makes doing a guide for the DLC missions harder is that there are different weapon and enemy placement settings that are chosen randomly with each session. There are 3 different weapon settings, and each enemy can have 3 or 4 different spawn points. This means that I can show only one weapon setting and one spawn point for each enemy in this run. Trying to get all instances from multiple runs and explaining those would take forever. I'm playing as Chris. Chris is superior in 2 ways for this mission. AI Jill has to open the door to the dining room, play the piano, and open the door with a lockpick. During this time, you can do other things with Chris and speed things up. The other way around, AI Chris will just wait and do nothing while you are busy doing these things with Jill. Chris, as a male character, has a slightly faster walking speed and therefore can evade enemies much easier. By the way, this mission has 18 point stars you can shoot. I will post the timestamps with the locations in the description. There are 10 within the mansion, 7 in the cellar, and 1 before the final fight. Shooting point stars count as missed shots, so you cannot get 100% accuracy when shooting point stars. The only real enemy type in the Lost in Nightmares mission is the guard, and I will quickly explain how to deal with it. The simple strategy to deal with it is to shoot its eye on the back. This causes it to drop on its knees. During that time, you can provide subsequent shots. Because it will always drop on its knees after a shot in its eye, while in idle state, you can stunlock it that way. The only challenge is to get behind it, especially in solo, and you have to get creative, depending on the situation. I demonstrate multiple approaches during this run. The first guard will appear once you take the crest. In this session, it appeared near the entrance to the dining room, where it will strike with a giant axe once you get close. Just get behind it during its recovery animation and start shooting. The other 2 spawn points are the bottom and the top of the staircase. In that case, you can lure it where the crest was. Because it has a low ceiling, it cannot grab you and does the axe attack instead. You can run past it during the attack animation in order to get behind it. Speaking of the grabs, usually you are not allowed to get close or you will get grabbed. In that state, You can only be saved by your partner. So the trick is to provoke it to do the edge attack so you can run past it and get behind it, while it recovers from that attack. I cover another topic that is rather pointless, but I needed to fill a large gap because there's nothing happening in the mentioned part of a Lost in Nightmares mission. That topic is the different weapon settings for each session. Pointless for the reason that the handgun is the most useful weapon against the guards anyway, since it is the most accurate weapon type. The other weapons would rather be used when you run out of handgun ammo. Like said before, there are 3 different weapon settings and all weapons can be acquired in this mentioned part. Depending on the weapon setting, Jill will find a different weapon on the separation part, Jill part. The place where I picked up the other code with Chris in the meantime potentially has a weapon, code part. And the place near the door to the lever for disabling the trap potentially has one, lever part. The first weapon setting has a machine pistol at Jill's part, a shotgun at the code part, and a rifle and proximity bombs at the lever part. The second weapon setting has a shotgun at Jill's part and a magnum at the lever part. And the third setting has a rifle at Jill's part and a magnum at the code part.
I can't stop it! The controls must be somewhere else! I'll shoot the lock! Stand back! All clear! Sure know how to keep a girl waiting.
For the second guard, it has 3 or 4 possible spawn points. I don't remember, to be honest. One is near to the door to the main hall, one is near to the door to the room with the computer, and one might be near the door to the room where the weapon was and walks back to the door where the main hall is. In all 3 cases, retreat to the room with the computer. Get close to the door so it enters the room, and then walk backwards. It has a script that does not allow it to follow you any further, and it will leave the room again. You can use this to now shoot the eye once it turns its back on you. You can repeat this process as many times as necessary.
Thanks!
A fourth possibility would be that it appears next to the door where you pull the lever. There is a safe and a glitchy way. The safe way would be to use any kind of grenade to stun it and exploit this to get behind it. The glitchy way would be to position yourself at the right corner when looking at the lever, left corner when looking at the guard. In that position, The guard will attempt to grab you, but fails, and you can run past it during the recovery moment. It will quickly turn around, but then the badge is turned on the AI partner. You can change it to attach state, and it will shoot the enemy for you. Don't worry, it will target the eye, and is very precise in doing that when using the handgun.
You bailed me out back there.
The Cellar section is the combat part of this mission, and you will have to defeat some enemies with gunpowder. It is essential to somehow get behind the enemy and to only shoot at the eye on its back, or the ammo will not last until the end of this part. There are multiple ways to get behind it, as you will see throughout this video. You just need to evaluate which is the most suitable approach for the current situation. The first enemy has 4 different spawn locations. It ambushes you 1. Halfway at the stairs, 2. At the end of the stairs, 3. It is walking around on the upper level, or 4. It appears from where you came once you go upstairs. Like I said before, I cannot show all instances, so it is up to your creativity to find a way to hit its eye on its back. In this example, I walked backwards with a certain distance away from the guard in order to provoke him to use its axe. This is way easier to do with Chris, since he walks faster than Jill. During its recovery animation, this is your chance to get behind it. And when you finally do what you saw in the past 2 encounters, keep it stun locked with eye shots. There are moving corpses on the ground that can grab you and keep you within that grapple for quite a long time. Such an ambush is especially dangerous when a guard is close by. A knife slash or a partner's grapple breaker will kill them entirely, so they will never get in your way again. For the second enemy, it will break through the wall. Do not approach that wall, or the guard's axe will put you into dying status. My original plan was to exploit the low ceiling, so it would use the axe instead of a grab, but because of the AI's action, I couldn't get behind it. So an alternative strategy is used. Here I use the gap that you and the enemy can jump across. If it jumps, you jump as well and quickly turn around. During its recovery animation, you have a chance to hit the eye. However, it will only get stunned from your shots after its recovery animation is finished. Nailing the timing for jumping at the right moment and afterwards shooting at the right moment might require some practice. Another method is that if the enemy is stunned, but you cannot reach its eye with a weapon in time, you can melee it before it stands up, so it will get into a recovery animation that will buy you more time. In this case, it didn't work because the AI partner followed up with a second melee attack that causes the enemy both to have a very short recovery animation and to follow up with a rage attack where it will swing its axe twice. It has wide range, so running away is very important in that case. It would go too far into detail to explain why the AI did the melee attack, but all you need to know is that it will not follow up with a melee attack if it either stands directly next to you when you run behind the enemy, or it is too far away to reach the enemy in time. The third guard has 3 different spawn locations. It 1. Jumps down immediately, 2. Jumps down after a little while if you don't move, or 3. Goes down the stairs. For the first 2 cases, you can wait once the music starts and catch it in a stun lock after it jumps down. For the last case, it gets a little trickier. If you play as Chris, you might try to boost Jill up and get to a position where she can aim at the eye and hope that she will stun lock the enemy for you. You might also try to stun lock it with the help of a grenade and then get behind it. You will see this demonstrated in the last guard encounter of this video in the Cellar section. Other than that, you can still use methods like the gap, the low ceiling, and provoking an axe attack. You definitely do not lack of alternatives to get behind it. The next guard also has 3 spawn points. It will 1. Directly jump across the gap, 2. Jump across it after a while, or 3. Approach from the second of the 2 directions. This time, however, its spawn location does not have a large impact on the strategy you use against it. In all 3 cases, you can easily use the gap tactic like shown here, or another preferred approach. But this time, you have to be very careful not to die, or in any other way be reliant on restarting the checkpoint. The reason is, there is a second guard that normally appears when you pick up the golden crest for the locked gate. But if you restart the checkpoint, both will appear at once, and handling 2 at a time is very complicated. In that case, you might need to rely on a trial and error approach to open the locked gate and run away while evading both guards. And here comes the last guard of this section. Now you are going to see the grenade approach I mentioned before. Just throw the grenade. In the case of incendiary grenade, wait until the fire is gone, so it will not damage you as well. Melee the enemy in order to buy yourself more time, and then get behind it. So in summary, the only viable way to kill these guards is an easy and dull one. The only challenge here is to get behind them. But as you have seen, there are very lot of options available to achieve this.
Jill, are you okay?
I'm fine, but I lost most of my gear.
Same here. Alright, try to find a way out of there, and I'll find a way to meet up with you.
Copy that. Watch your back.
The third of the 4 sections is about defeating the guards without weapons. Each of the characters' starting area has a first aid spray and a flash grenade. Pick them up before you leave that area. Put your AI partner into attack mode so it will pick up the items on its side as well. On the upper level where the first range is, there are 3 spiders that give you point stars upon killing them. The first chest has either red or blue trend, with a 2/3 chance the red one. There are big differences depending on which difficulty you play. On amateur, you only have to defeat the first guard and you are done. On normal, you have to kill 3 more guards after the first one, but there will never be more than 2 guards at a time. On veteran, all 3 guards will be present after killing the first one.
Jill!
And the last difference is that on professional, the enemy's positions are not highlighted on the map, so they can easily surprise you around corners. The approach for each trap color is always the same, so watch my approaches carefully. For the red one, wait until the trap is high enough for the guard to fit in. If it detects you earlier, you can circle the pillars at the center of the room to easily evade it until the trap is ready. Then lure it underneath the trap and give a command once it is under it. Also, there is a corpse you may want to defeat first, before it can become a problem later on. The central room has 3 more flash grenades inside crates you may want to pick up before continuing. Corpses serve as a trap to slow you down, so the guards can catch up to you. You want them out of the way before the situation becomes serious. Once the piece is inserted, 2 walls will break and you can explore the area further. The 3 spawned guards will destroy the remaining walls sooner or later if you don't let them notice you, so they will not leave their patrolling path. There are crates with point stars scattered around the area. If you have your AI partner on attack mode, there is a good chance that it will pick up all of them for you. What I do is to explore the area in a clockwise direction and pick up all 3 cranes first, before dealing with the guards. I recommend a specific order of using the cranes. The first is the green crane, because only 1 guard is patrolling the area, so it is best to clear that area first. The second is the blue or red one, depending on with which one you had to defeat the first guard before. You want to prioritize this one over the purple one, because although there is a chance to run into both guards at the same time, the chance is much lower for the red/blue one. Moreover, the red/blue one has more escape routes if needed. Since the area with the green trench was cleared before, you can escape to that area without getting surprised by another guard. And finally, with only one guard remaining, the purple trench remains. And that is basically everything you have to know about this area, so I can use the time to cover some bonus aspects. There are 2 more corpses hiding underwater. Pay attention to where they are in this video and take them out before they become a problem. Be aware that these corpses always become active again if you restart a checkpoint, even when defeating them before the last checkpoint was triggered. If a guard grabs you and the AI is not nearby, restart the checkpoint immediately, so the 1000 death damage points will not be added to your results screen.
I got this. You lead them in.
You can use flash grenades to get away if you get cornered by guards. But do not waste too much, since you may need one when deploying a trap. Pay attention to this instance here. There were 2 guards. If one of them would block the trap after releasing it, yes, that can happen, you will see that for the final guard, the second one could still move. As you have seen before, you can use one trap on multiple guards. If you run into such an instance, you can use that to your advantage. Defeating multiple guards adds points to your high score, but doing this can be very tricky if a game does not throw the situation on a silver plate for you, so you should not try hard to do that unless your goal is to maximize your high score. But this video is an Ascent guide and not a high score guide. If a guard blocks a trap, you have to either use a finisher or flash grenade to entirely defeat them before they escape the trap. The AI partner opened the crate before, but here I show you how you can break the crate with a snake without getting hit by it. And the last thing is that snakes drop white or brown eggs as additional healing items, but only if they move on the ground. If you spawn kill the snake that comes out of that one crate, it won't drop an egg. With the remaining 3 pieces inserted, you can finally leave this area if you have picked up all items here.
Give me a grenade.
Take this.
Thanks for the help.
In this pre-boss area, pick up the handgun and remember to shoot the final point star before moving on and triggering the cutscene.
You grab it.
Roger.
Come on.
Roger.
For this Wesker boss fight, you have two choices. Deal enough damage and end the fight preliminary, or survive for 3 minutes. This fight can get very random, so there's no shame if you don't manage to defeat Wesker in time, unless you go for the specific achievement. As you see, even with my 1000 plus hours of playtime, I had a sloppy start. In summary, what the game wants you to do is to provoke a QTE by shooting him twice, dodge that QTE, and then use a melee attack on him. However, you cannot react to the first QTE. You have to guess and immediately push one of the two buttons and hope it was the correct one. If it was the wrong one, you take damage, but you cannot enter dying state, and you have to dodge a second QTE. This time you can react to it, but failing it will kill you instantly. You can still use the melee attack on Wesker after dodging the second QTE. However, what I prefer to do is when Wesker charges towards you, run past him to evade his attack. Turn around and start to shoot when he does his 180-degree kick. If you time it correctly, he gets stunned and you can use a melee attack on him. Then you can exploit his recovery animation to get behind him again and repeat the process. If you get lucky, you can chain this method multiple times. This method does not work, however, when he does the 180-degree kick after freeing your partner from a grab. In that case, he always dodges perfectly. After taking enough damage, if Wesker scores a successful hit on the first character, a special cutscene starts, and he performs a very fast QTE on the second character. Dodging this successfully allows you to use a finisher and deal lots of damage to him. A secret method I can also suggest for reacting to the QTEs is to pause the menu right after the cutscene is over. The QTE button disappears during the pause menu, but if you recognize the button before it disappeared, you can prepare yourself to immediately push the button after leaving the pause menu again. A last strategy I can suggest, if you don't feel confident in your combat skills at all, is a circling strategy I demonstrated in a very old camcorder recording years ago. If you keep circling around Wesker at medium range, he will never use the QTE attack if the QTEs are the reason why you are stuck on this fight. You can find the video with that strategy in the description below.